This is JE Live. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, your host as always, because that's what JE stands for. And I have a awesome guest who every time we get together and talk about whatever, mostly football, we just have a blast. Welcome, Stephie Smalls. How you doing?
I'm doing good. This is so long overdue for the two of us to get on here and just chop it up. Nothing in particular to talk about. Just talk about ball and have a good time.
That was the main thing. Like when you and I were talking, I was just like, "What are we gonna talk about?" I was like, "You know what? I don't even care. We'll get to that, right? And just have a conversation about football." And I think that's literally the title on YouTube right now: an NFL football conversation with Stephie Smalls. Like it should
Cheers
be.
to that. Yeah, exactly.
I only
things
have
things are up and with training camp and stuff, so it's good.
I only have a vitamin water, so can't.
I
really...
did. I do have. Yeah, we can cheers to. I did pour myself one little glass of wine here, but yes.
So first off, because we have a lot to talk about, obviously today, right? Just all the injuries and whatnot, and just going into the NFL season. But I want to give you a chance for anybody that's watching that may, unfortunately have not checked out our shows before, our collaborations. What are you doing right now? What are you up to? Because you're doing some big things. I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. I am doing independent things now, which is very exciting. I just launched my own YouTube channel, Stephie Smalls Show. I think you have it in the description there, which was very nice of you to do. But yeah, just launched on Sunday, doing Wednesday, Friday, Sunday streams. Excited for football to start. So right now it's a little bit of golf and football, and then once football takes off and things will really get going. But I'm excited to be doing my own stuff right now and it's the first time I've had creative control fully in a really long time since I first started out in the industry, which was not, it hasn't been that long. I say it like I've been in forever. I haven't, but it's been a while since I have been kind of just doing my own thing.
Yes. And I've kind of been in your ear a little bit, like, you should definitely do a YouTube channel. So I'm really glad you are. The link should be in the description on YouTube, and I will put it in the comment section momentarily. But I got to ask you, before we dive into the NFL, like, this kind of happened out of nowhere, at least like for me, because we've never met personally, although it feels like we have, because, we're friends like that. But, it just feels like it was like one day you just became the biggest golf fan, the biggest golf analyst. Like, I mean, you are a pro's pro, and it just I don't know, jack shit about the NFL, or not the NFL, golf, and you're just like I'd go to you about any bet or anything. How did that come to be?
Honestly, because I'm pretty sure I am a little bit older than you, you end up needing a little bit, some more hobbies as you get into my old age here. I'm being slightly dramatic, but that's all right. I just fell in love with it very quickly. I joined a season-long golf league 2 years ago and just absolutely got hooked. Obviously, been doing the gambling thing for several years now, but betting on golf is very fun. You want to talk about some long odds that, you can really hit on some of these golfers. People had tickets just I think my first outright I ever won was on Tom Hoge. It was last year, 130 to 1. You're not seeing that anywhere in the NFL, right? So it's when you do hit, you kind of can spread, your bankroll a little bit across some more guys, and just picking up the sport, it's fun, gives you something to do.
Yeah, I wish I was good at it. I'm sadly not. I will go to the drive-in and just I don't know. I mean, that I've never been on a golf course before. I mean, truthfully, I'll just go out there and just hit a few balls, use the driver. I have a golf set from years ago, but I mean, I see you. It seems like you're out every day playing golf.
Yeah, it's the nice thing of being, self-employed now. Kaya wants to chime in the background here. But yeah, I mean, it's nice, just getting outside. And it's actually a very frustrating sport, as many people know that do play it. But it's been fun, and watching yourself get better. There's good days and bad days, but yeah, it's a blast.
Yeah, well, that's great. And obviously you have to have something to do during the dead period, because I was not aware how dead the NFL season gets in July until it hit me this year. Okay, it's like, oh my God, like you have to do something else. Like, you know, we're also.
It seemed more dead than usual. No, like I feel like there was a couple of weeks where we heard. I mean, there was nothing. They're not even like a peep out about anything.
Yeah, like. Everyone just hit pause. Like it was like the Twilight Zone, where like that one episode where the guy drops the watch that stops time because he uses it so much, it takes advantage of it. They get stuck in like this time stop. Everything's just that's how it felt. Is like we were the guy. We were just living our lives, and now everything around us is just frozen.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly how it felt. And then you're just waiting, and then the hype obviously starts to pick up when training camp starts approaching. We got a little bit of that with, you know, the franchise tag deadline here. That was probably the biggest high that all of us got. We had DeAndre Hopkins a couple weeks ago, but really not much in between these last couple weeks.
No, really not much. I mean, you know, I think when you look at, like, because you're a Giants fan and you cover the whole NFL, so I'm definitely not about to pigeonhole you into the Giants, but Saquon Barkley thing was a big deal, and that's all taken care of, at least for now. And you had some thoughts on that. I saw your video. You were amped. Obviously, you should be. How big of a deal, was just getting Saquon signed, whether it's 4 years or 1 year, just making sure he's there for this year?
I mean, I always knew that Joe Schoen was never going to go. I didn't think he was going to go into training camp having this be some theatrical distraction. I was surprised that a deal did not get done. I think that a big piece of this was when they had offered Saquon halfway through the season and they turned that down. I don't know that Saquon or his agent could have predicted the way that the RB market was going to tank as fast as it did, as we approach the end of the season. Everyone starts talking negotiations. But the Giants, whether or not people want to argue that you want to pay running backs, the Giants have relied on Saquon. I don't know what my dog is doing right now, but they've relied on him, and he's so important to this team just as like a culture fit too is the thing. So I'm very excited to have him back. We'll see where that goes. I think he just bet on himself. He's not the type of guy where you see someone like Josh Jacobs, who I love Josh Jacobs to death. He is honestly arguably one of my favorite running backs in the league, but we've seen Josh Jacobs also react in the past for lack of a better term, like immaturely towards things. So it's not shocking that you saw him getting on a flight, leaving Vegas, like his tweets, like that stuff is not shocking. Whereas like Saquon takes a lot of pride in being like very loyal to this team. And I think he wants to play for his teammates. He wants to play for this team. It makes his tag option next year, that amount go up. He's put himself maybe in a better spot because I don't know that any team next year is going to want to pay him that amount outside of the Giants. So I think Joe Schoen showed that he did what he could to make sure that Saquon was there. And overall, it's a win-win. It sucks for Saquon. They probably could have met halfway, but this guaranteed money is starting to get out of control across the NFL, regardless of position.
Oh, absolutely. And, we'll get to, I see in the comments, people are asking about, Jalen. Hope everyone's doing well, by the way. We will get to Jalen in a sec. You and I have both agreed, like, Joe Schoen was the right hire, trusted him. Dable was the right hire. This team, it feels as though when you look at the NFC East, rather, it feels like this is the team that everyone just is kind of penciling in at the bottom of the division. Mm-hmm. Like Madden has the Cowboys, I think, either third or fourth rated in the. I don't know how. Dak Prescott's an 87 overall. I don't know how. Am I crazy to think that maybe the Giants are a playoff team here and they could finish second or even maybe win the division if something crazy were to go on in Philly? I mean, I feel like the Dallas Cowboys kind of get a free pass for not winning a divisional round since the 90s.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'm learning more and more that the Giants could do anything and the media and everyone is going to dislike them, which is like fine. I don't really care. They even discredit like the Super Bowl wins that we did have. Like it's just the team that they are. People don't like that New York team for some reason. Love themselves the Jets now, but we continue to hate the New York Giants. So it is what it is. It's totally fine. But I don't think it's ridiculous to say that the Giants go back to the playoffs. Do they lose in a wild card round? Probably. Like, I don't think this team is ready to like fully compete. They have a lot of holes there in the defense, but they're getting there. They're on the right trajectory. Joe Shane is, making sure that he's paying Andrew Thomas. He's paying Sexy Dexy. Like, he's making sure these guys are getting paid. And I think he wants to build through the draft. I think they had a really successful draft this year too. Daniel Jones looks awesome. He gets another year in this system. Finally, he hasn't had that consistency in a really long time. And for the first time, the best player that Daniel Jones has thrown the ball to, Saquon, whatever, is Golden Tate. And now he gets Darren Waller. And like Golden Tate, we're talking not Golden Tate like prime Golden Tate. We're talking Golden Tate been through, a little bit on those tires there. So I think that they're in a really good spot to have success this year. Success to me is winning like 8-9 games. Like, I think that's success for this team. Like, just show that you can be consistent and that you can compete in a way that teams aren't just like, oh, we're playing the Giants. It's an easy win. And I think that overlooking the Giants, though, is a mistake. It's interesting. The NFC East is interesting because I think it's starting to get a little bit more recognition back because there's a lot of talent there across the board.
I totally agree. And I mean, while it is the island of misfit toys over there in the wide receiver room, doesn't mean they don't have talent. I mean, I'm a big fan of Isaiah Hodgins. I think he can be a one, not a high end one, but I think he can be that one. And I mean, all you need to know is that Dable saw him in Buffalo. Was like, all right, it's not his time yet, but that was the guy he kept in his mind, made sure to go and get him. And immediately stepped up. He had a playoff touchdown. He was huge down the stretch. And, I mean, I know my fantasy team, he was starting every week for me. So I'm a big fan of him. He has a bloodline, former Rams fullback James Hodgins. So that's great. But you mentioned the Jets. So before we get into Jalen, because I know people are still asking about that, Garrett Wilson had a little bit of a hiccup today with the ankle. I don't know how severe it is. I didn't see any update. I don't know if you did.
I don't think I did either. I think people were thinking like not too bad of a sprain, but if I'm the Jets, I'm probably, keeping him on the side for a little bit. Yeah. But that's what I would do. I don't know what the Jets are going to do.
I think high ankle sprains are so tough. So if it's a high ankle, and we don't want to speculate, but if it is a high ankle, like that could linger throughout the season. And my thing is, everyone's talking about how great Garrett Wilson is, how great that, combination of him and Aaron Rodgers looks in camp. And while normally I would be like, it's camp, I'm like, well, Garrett Wilson is a reigning offensive rookie of the year. And whether you like him or you hate him, Aaron Rodgers has won MVPs in 2 of the last 3 seasons. Yeah. So I think people are really quick to be like, oh, Aaron Rodgers fell off. What I will say is with Aaron Rodgers, I liken it to Tom Brady's last year in New England. Like, remember when Tom Brady had that weird year right before he left, and it was like they lost to the Titans. He threw a pick 6 to kind of end the game, and then he goes to the Bucs and he wins the Super Bowl. My question for you, and just kind of discussing the Jets, is like, where do you see them? Because I actually have them in the AFC title game, losing to the Bengals, but I have them in the AFC title game. Where do you have them?
I'm glad that you are bringing the Jets up because I feel very torn with them. My thing is, I think that their defense is going to take an even bigger leap than people are expected. I expect it to actually be one of the best defenses in the entire league. I think that they are going to make a significant leap. They're going to cause problems. I think that what the Jets also have on their side is they have all those home games. Their schedule is like I think people are overlooking what Aaron Rodgers is, like you just said too. And also Aaron Rodgers brought over a couple, toys that he has loved to play with over the last couple years, several years. And I think that they are in a position where they could absolutely take the AFC East, and it wouldn't surprise me. But then you also, I think there's a lot of, frills around some of these guys, because you saw what Stafford did when he went to a new team. Then Brady did it. And it doesn't always necessarily work out that way, but they're in a better position than Russ was, which Russ is a totally different conversation. You and I have talked about this to different extents that anyone else has. But I think the Jets are going to be, I think, bearing any injury, are going to be a good football team.
I agree with you. I mean, at the very least, like I see some that are like Aaron Rodgers is going to be terrible. The Jets are going to go 7-10 or 6-11. I'm like, the Jets went 7-10, 6-11 last year, and like they didn't have a quarterback. Like, I mean, we're talking, Mike White was like their savior. I mean, like that's where we were at, and then they were starting him with broken ribs over Zach Wilson. That's all you need to know. They would rather have a guy with broken ribs over Zach Wilson. And so that, and I'm not going to say that Zach Wilson doesn't have a chance to someday down the road, with, time behind Aaron Rodgers, figure himself out. But clearly he didn't last year. And he's, he had the injury in preseason. Speaking of figuring themselves out, the Rams, because I see people in here. We'll start with Jalen because the Rams trade Jalen Ramsey. Ramsey suffers what looks like a meniscus tear, potentially. It's not good. There's a chance he misses the rest of the year, depending on how the surgery goes. But there's also a pretty big chance that he does come back in the month of December. Where are the Dolphins before Ramsey gets hurt? And then with this timeline, after he gets hurt, do you feel like losing Jalen Ramsey kind of takes them out of the hype train that they were currently on, or do you think they're still a really good football team?
Okay, so I think that's something, and because I do talk gambling a lot, and a lot of people are very high on the Dolphins. My concern is what happens if, and I don't wish this on anyone, knock on wood, but if Tua gets another concussion, what's everyone's plan here? Like, we're just going to keep riding through these concussions? Like, that makes me really nervous, first of all. I don't know. I feel comfortable taking some of these season-long props on them and stuff, but what makes me nervous a lot is Tua. I think that they're in a good spot. I think this team looks like they can be the team that everyone's expecting. Do I think that the Dolphins are going to the Super Bowl next year? No, I do not think the Dolphins are going to the Super Bowl next year. Ramsey being gone, does it totally stop their momentum? Probably not. It'll be interesting to see what their O-line looks like a little bit too. They've got the weapons there. I'm hesitant. I'm a little bit concerned about Tua's health, to be completely honest.
I am too. I mean, I would say he is underrated because I think when people are making those top 10 rankings that everyone loves so much, they count that against him. I think from a pure quarterback standpoint, people don't want to admit it, and I will because I was wrong about him. I didn't think he'd translate to the NFL. He's a top 10 quarterback.
I was definitely wrong about him, for sure. And I can admit that, absolutely.
Yeah, and so I think when, if he stays healthy, like the Dolphins could be a problem. I look at the Jets, Dolphins, and Bills in that conference or that division, and I'm like, any one of those three teams can win. But I do not feel any sort of good way towards the New England Patriots, and I don't think their roster's that bad. I really don't. But I think they're going to be. That's 6 losses. Think about it. I could see them getting swept by all 3 of those teams, and if that's the case, they're already in a hole. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Don't be surprised if what happened, I don't know if you follow the NBA as much as I do, but and I don't follow it a ton anymore, but I'm sure you heard the name Victor Wembanyama, right?
Yeah.
You've heard of Greg Popovich.
Yeah.
Well, who is the NFL equivalent to Greg Popovich?
That's a good question. I bet you're going to tell me, though.
It's Bill Belichick. Popovich was flirting with retirement. Belichick, I could see that. I think Belichick next year, they're going to be in the top 10. And they're not going to get awarded the number 1 overall pick because the Spurs got the stupid lottery that I still can't believe we have draft lotteries. But yeah, I think the Patriots are going to trade up and they're going to select Caleb Williams number 1 overall because I think Arizona's dumb enough to stick by Kyler Murray. What are your thoughts on that little theory of mine?
First of all, if I'm Bill, I'm leaving. Like, I would have already been gone. I'm Bill, I'm out because it kind of reminds me of when these quarterbacks don't know when to take the knee and be done. We've seen it happen over and over and over again with Drew Brees, with Big Ben. They don't know when enough is enough. And I wish Bill would just do that. But obviously, Bill is very much married to the game. We know what he is. He's you cannot say enough good things about Bill Belichick. I don't think anyone would debate that either. Whether, there is the Brady crowd who will probably debate that for you, but whatever. Arizona probably will stick with Kyler. I do feel like that is a move that they will do, try to get some draft capital there. If the Patriots are smart enough to, it depends if Bill wants to stay. It depends. It's
what if he strong arms him? He's
I heard Mac looked horrible. So
yeah, I mean, well, here's what I would say if I'm Bill Belichick. I'm like, all right, I got Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. Okay, I want Caleb Williams or I'm out. That's where it is. Just we got to get it done. And I mean, he's the GM, so he could do it. I could see him just being like, F them picks for 1 year. Let's go out, get Caleb Williams, let everything go. Yeah, so I think going back to the Dolphins, I think Jalen is going to be fine long term, right? I don't think this is going to have any adverse effects for his career. But I really don't see him until December. I don't. I think he comes back for a postseason push. Now, I will say, I think the Dolphins, going out and drafting a corner, I think they're okay. Jalen was extra. I think that right now, the Dolphins secondary is okay. They have some guys that I really like. They got Needham there. They got Kahoo there. And of course, Xavier Howard. I think they're going to be okay. I don't know what you think about that, but I'm not
agree.
worried,
I like
so to
Howard
speak.
a lot. I think that, Jalen is older. He's 28. He might be turning 29. Is he 29? 28?
I think he's 20. Yeah, I think he's 28.
Yes. Somewhere around there. I think they'll take their time with bringing him back. And we've seen that a lot, too, in the league, where these teams that, they know they're on a trajectory to go to the playoffs, they milk letting them sit for a little bit longer if they don't need them right now. Let that player sit, let them rest, bring them back, and then go for it.
I agree. And unfortunately, the Rams ended up trading away Jalen Ramsey. I absolutely hated that trade because they did not get much for him. They got a 3rd rounder in Hunter Long, which, I mean, I guess, whatever you feel about Hunter Long.
I forgot about that, kind of.
Yeah, well, I did not. Man. So, the interesting thing with the dialogue about the Rams, first off, I have no idea where you are on that. I don't know if you think that they're a dumpster fire, seems like everyone else does, or if you're kind of intrigued by what they could be, because I'm going to pitch this to you. I think the Rams know something none of us do. I'm not just saying you and I'm saying other teams. If you remember, they got out in front and they basically learned that F them picks before anyone else. F them picks was the right way to win a Super Bowl quickly. It's not the right way to have sustained success because it puts way too much pressure on the cap. But I'm starting to wonder if it's almost like they found out something, and I've compared it to you're finding out something inside, and obviously don't insider trade, but it's like you find out something with a company and you're like, oh, I'm selling all my stock. It feels as though they knew or they learned something about defenses in the modern NFL and how paying $20 million for the best corner in the league doesn't matter anymore. And paying $14 million for Leonard Floyd doesn't matter anymore. Paying $10 million for Bobby Wagner doesn't matter anymore. And the scheme is able to somewhat hide the deficiencies. What are your thoughts on that theory? Because I feel like when you take a guy like, say, Raheem Morris, who I think is an incredible defensive coordinator. I think he's top 10 in the league and doesn't get enough respect. You have guys like Jacoby Durant and Ernest Jones, and those are guys we know that are good. The rest are really unproven. And then you have Mr. Hall of Famer, arguably the most dominant player ever, Aaron Donald. Could this defense, could they be onto something here? Not spending too much on the defense, focusing on the offense, and setting themselves up for now and the future.
Yeah, I think so. And it's funny because I was just looking at, where their money is laid out this year. And I don't know what it is into the cap. It's like 60 something, but it's a majority of that is on like the defense side of it. I'm saying that's all in one player. So they have to be thinking something. This has to be a plan that they're coming up with and and I'm going a little bit sidetracked, but I think people are just deciding that, Cooper Kupp is just like non-existent for some reason. Like he's just like not part of the offense anymore. And I know, there's questions kind of around Matt Stafford. We haven't talked about this. I'm going to throw it back to you because I think a lot of how I feel about this Rams team is almost less on the defense, which probably is a poor take, but I want to know where you're at with Matt Stafford. Like, is Matt Stafford is playing next year is the full plan, right?
Yeah. No, okay. I like the people I've talked to within the organization seem very confident that he's back to normal. Like, he's the healthiest. I was told this. I was told really not to say it, but I won't add the name of who said it. But I was told straight up that Matthew Stafford's in like the best. He's feeling the best he's ever felt. Like,
did I tell you I saw him at a bar in Los Angeles?
You did.
Did I send you a picture of him? Yeah. I turned around and I'm like, I'm 90% sure that is Matthew Stafford. He was massive. Okay, continue. Sorry, but no, I heard similar to what you heard too.
Yeah, I think what people don't understand is, and yes, obviously the injuries. He's not a healthy 35, 36 years old, but he's 35, right? Like, he's not super old, okay? The norm now, quarterbacks playing until they're 40. So he's got like 5 years left if we're talking about the norm. And that's not to say he'll play that, but I feel as though this is somebody who has been around so long because he was so young and drafted the year before Sam Bradford that we've seen Sam Bradford leave and Matthew's still here, and we just assume, oh, he was part of the Ben Roethlisberger year. Like, that's how people think, is they think like he's part of that. He's not. And so I look at Stafford and, you are what you were in your last game until you show us otherwise in the season. And the last time I saw Matthew Stafford, he looked good against the Saints. Yeah. When they protected him, he's throwing a bomb to Tutu Atwell. He's making the no-look passes. He's stepping up in the pocket. He's escaping. He's sliding. And then he gets hurt. And that's the last time you see him all year. And I think we use that too much against him and not enough for him. Because I would say this is the freshest he's ever been. Think about Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford. No one looks at it like this. Not arguably, the Rams' best three players on their roster got extensive time off. So
it was very intentional, especially with Cooper Kupp. Like, he could have, it was very intentional the way that they did this. Because sometimes, even like we said earlier, sometimes they rest players to go to the playoffs, and then sometimes they rest players because you don't need to rush them back, and you can give them that extensive time to come back and be the best that they can be. And I think we saw that a lot with the Rams, and the Rams are smart in that way. They also went out. I think a lot of that, misconception with Stafford is they saw him win a Super Bowl. And then it's like, oh, he's actually as old as Big Ben. No, he's not, weirdos. He's just not that old is the thing.
Exactly. And it's funny how no one is using that idea of like, these guys had all that time off. And Stafford, mind you, got hurt badly in Detroit. The year when they traded for him, I don't believe he finished the season. Like, and that's the thing. So we're talking about that guy who comes off a year where he was banged up to all hell, missed games, so forth. And then he goes right into LA and he wins the Super Bowl. And now this is the guy you want to bet against after a freak season last year, injury after injury on the offensive line, 16 different combinations. And we're just like, he's penciled in. Matt has him 22nd. Okay. I mean, insanity.
Really?
He's the 22nd highest rated quarterback. He's rated a 75.
When did everyone turn their back? Remember when everyone was just like in love with him? Even before he went to the Rams, all people wanted to see was him out of Detroit. And that's all people talked about. They were so obsessed with him. And then he won the Super Bowl and everyone just like turned their back on him.
Well, that was you and I. That was people that like football. That was people that watch more than just their NFL team. They were like, oh, this poor Matthew Stafford. We watch him every Thanksgiving and he gets obliterated. And so we were hyped, and I was obviously hyped because I've been a fan of his and I'm a Rams fan. So whammy right there. But it was like those people were hyped. But you have the people that have literally built a brand on calling him Stat Padford, have said that he can't win a playoff game, and they weren't going to let their ego, like they weren't going to keep it in check. They were going to let it go. And they rode and they pounded the stump. You had, I mean, Skip Bayless on air is literally crying because Shannon Sharp is like, I thought you said Tom Brady was going to beat Matthew Stafford. Your boy lost. And he's like, stop it. Like, he's literally crying like a child. Yeah. And you had too many people like that. And Steph, I'll throw this one by you. Matthew Stafford is the only quarterback in NFL history to throw over 5,000 yards and 60-plus touchdowns when playing the full season, including playoffs. No one's ever done that. That's first thing. Second thing, and this, I understand Cooper Kupp was great, okay? Cooper Kupp was great in the Super Bowl. But here's the thing. Matthew Stafford is the only quarterback in NFL history to win a Super Bowl, throw 3 touchdowns, and not win Super Bowl MVP. Cooper Kupp didn't win it because he's Cooper Kupp, because they were just giving it to Aaron Donald. Matthew Stafford was never winning that because the people that vote on that don't like Matthew Stafford. For whatever reason, these people do not like him. He proves them wrong time and time again. And it was like you said over and over again, he's 0-3 in the playoffs. Well, now he's 4-3. Went 4-0. You know? And it's just like, I don't know what this guy did. Like, all I've ever heard are good things. He does charity work and literally tells people when he's doing the charity work, I don't want any media because I don't want this on film. Like, he's not about the clout. And it's like, what'd this guy do?
Yeah, I honestly, and I think there's so much politics in a lot of this than we could ever imagine. A lot of these, I mean, you look at even like the Pro Bowl, like some of the guys that get into it, you're like, what the hell is going on?
Has he ever gone to a Pro Bowl?
Even I
don't think so.
I was just interesting. Because it's just because a lot of this stuff has just become such like a participation award. Even anytime someone retires, immediately everyone's like, he has to go to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, I know.
Not everyone can go to the Hall of Fame. Not everyone can go to the Hall of Fame. But I think, even Evan,
one-time Pro Bowler,
fantastic success, but the year that he went, that last year on the Giants, like, he did not deserve to be in the Pro Bowl by literally any means. I remember I've never been more shocked by something in my entire life. But it's interesting how things have shifted to just like almost it not making sense.
I agree with you. So Matthew Stafford, basically what you're saying is the season rides on Stafford. If he's healthy, they can do something. You're not really worried about the defense. The offense needs to protect him.
I maybe should be, but I think that they, even in their division, will find ways to sneak. They just don't feel like a tank team. I don't see them going and just deciding the season. Like,
I can't stand that.
I don't see them being a team that's just going to be like, oh, we're done. Whereas, like, I feel very differently about teams like Tampa Bay, where I think it's like in their best interest to do something like that. The Rams, I don't know that I feel that strongly that I don't even know that the organization alone is going to do that is all.
No, they're not. Caleb Williams was never an option. I like USC, but no, that's not happening. I wish fans would just kind of give up on that. And then understand why people like you and I who wait 7-8 months, just like everyone else, but we also cover it, 7-8 months for the NFL season to kick off again. And you're telling me you're mad because I don't want to throw in the towel before I waited all this time. I'm not about to just be losing every game. That's insane. So I cannot stand that. But what I'll say is this, okay? When I look at the NFL, it seems like every year we get 1-2 teams that just come out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. I want to know with you, are there 1 or 2 teams that really stand out to you that maybe people talk about, maybe they don't talk about enough, maybe no one's talking about, that you think like, hey, this team could be a problem. Maybe not win a Super Bowl, but like be a problem this year. Do some damage in the playoffs. Spoil some seasons. Do you have any teams that come to mind?
I don't know if playoffs is a different situation, but now the one team is starting to kind of be a darling in the Falcons. I think that people are really overlooking all the moves that they made and the money that they spent. I think that their secondary is going to be much better than people think this year. I also don't know that writing the Titans off as a horrible, easy win is the smartest idea. And I hate to say it, but it like legitimately makes me sick to say, but the Commanders might be able to put something together a little bit, like just enough to be annoying. Like none of these teams do I think that they're like competing for something crazy. But I think that the Commanders defense is still going to be the Commanders defense. I think that Sam Howell has enough there to maybe make something happen. Those are just teams that I have seen getting knocked very passionately. And I think the Vikings, people are, in my opinion, far, far, far too low on. I understand why. I hear everyone. I know. I saw their defense. I know very well. I went to both of the Giants games. I went to them. I am well aware. I know that their defense is bad. What people are failing to realize is there is a lot of players that people have not seen that they have drafted, and now they have Flores come in as a DC. He does not do well in other positions. Where he excels is as defensive coordinator. And I think that I see the concern, but again, this is, you look at, people just look and hyper fixate on the Kirk Cousins thing. People don't want to hear it. If I took away Kirk Cousins' name and showed you his stats year after year, like you would not talk the amount of crap that you talk about him. I think that Jordan Addison is going to take away attention from Justin Jefferson, let him completely be unleashed. Then you look at Hawkinson, he's going to demand targets. I don't know that writing them off entirely from the NFC North, that feels like a malpractice to me. Like, I know that their defense is going to stink, but it cannot possibly show you, that's not necessarily going to be depicted,
I do know. And so it was funny. I meant to text you about this because I've been seeing, what a trend is, and I'm getting really tired of it. The Vikings in last place in that division. Why?
Yeah.
Why? So you trust Jordan Love more than Kirk Cousins.
That's what's driving me.
You trust Justin Fields, who I am not a fan of calling any quarterback a running back. Justin Fields is a running back right now. He throws 77 yards a game. Okay? He is a fantasy football stud. That doesn't mean he's a good quarterback in the NFL. Doesn't mean I can count on him to make throws in between sticks.
The Jordan Love thing, I just do not understand. Where all of a sudden we have decided that they should be either winning that division or coming in second is just what are you doing?
Your guess is as good as mine because I don't think the team is bad. Actually, I'll go further. I don't think that there are many teams in the league right now. That's the weird thing. That's why, like, everyone who's just not penciling, but even like penning in any team at this point, like, there are teams like the Raiders and the Cardinals that I just don't think are very good at all. Like, I think the Cardinals are going to pick number one. I think they're the worst team by far. But then there are teams like the Texans who I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if they stole some games. You know what I mean?
I like the Texans as well. I think that the Texans, they also made moves. People don't realize they've made some moves that show me that they're kind of interested in winning more games now.
Exactly.
Not necessarily winning later. Like, well, I do think that they are setting up for success, but the Texans are kind of turning into my team. And I think we talked about this, like when we saw the Lions going on this positive trajectory, whatever that was, like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, before even I think the Goff trade happened, they were making the right moves, making the right trades. They got a new coach in there, and then every year they just they show a little bit more fight. I don't care what their record said, but something about the Texans, like I think that they're showing you by every single move that they have made that they want to win more games now.
Absolutely.
Like it's not they want to win them now, this season, a couple more games. Do I think they're going to win 8 games? No, I do not think the Texans are winning 8 games, but do I think they could, push the needle a little bit further? They were great against the spread for a couple weeks there too. Like they stay in games. Like they really do.
Yeah, I'm excited for John Mechie because, I mean, he was my second overall receiver coming out of that draft, and obviously he battles leukemia, misses the whole season. They're saying he looks good. They're saying Hutchinson looks good. I don't know. I mean, look, when they drafted C.J. Stroud, I had a higher grade overall on Anthony Richardson, but I felt like Anthony Richardson was a long-term, I could be Patrick Mahomes, like really, really high, like ceiling, not the floor, right? But CJ Stroud was like the safe pick, like pocket passer that has some mobility. He's not a runner by any stretch, but he would work. And what I love, it's the double standard with the Texans, because we heard for all offseason, oh my God, DeMeco Ryans is going to be this, massive stud of a coach. He is the biggest prospect, head coaching prospect. And now it's like those same people are like, yeah, I don't trust the Texans. Like, they don't just do it. Like, it's like, wait, hold on. So you're saying that he was this big stud coach and you don't trust them now with a quarterback, with some weapons, some guy, veteran presence on the defense? I mean, again, like you said, are they going to win 8 games? Probably not. But are they going to be a pest? Yes. I do not want to face them twice a year. I mean, the Colts are another team that I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm still a Chris Ballard fan at heart. And I can't help but think, like, they could do something. The Titans, I'm kind of like, they're in purgatory. I don't know if I'd want to be a Titans fan right now, just because, like, Ryan Tannehill is just
like the Cardinals 2 years ago. Like, they're like this above average. They're gonna like be in this spot for a little bit too long, and then it's probably gonna
fizzle out,
looking very similar. Like, it's gonna look very similar. I think it's not a good spot to be in. I think that and I'll get to the Colts, but CJ Stroud couldn't have been placed in a better spot where there's not as much pressure. So I'm glad that he didn't step into a situation where it was like, we want to win, like we're ready to really compete. I think that he can really, develop into himself. I'm interested. I don't know where I stand with the Colts fully. I don't know. They're a team that I haven't, and I haven't like totally done my full research on them for the season. I was just getting to them. I think they're up next, but I don't know. I think they might be a good fantasy football team this year. I'm wondering how they are but you're right. Like, could I see them being a little bit feisty? Yeah.
Anthony Richardson is going to dictate that entire team, because since he's starting, I mean, it honestly makes sense. If they felt like they were a Super Bowl team, they would start Gardner Minshew. right? If they felt like they had all the pieces, okay, he makes the fewest mistakes, whatever.
Right.
They're going for it. Like, they're just like, you know what? Throw caution to the wind. We want Anthony Richardson starting. And, I mean, when you have Alec Pierce and, you know, Michael Pittman, and you go out, you get Josh Downs. I mean, I like the weapons for him. I like the tight ends there. I mean, I'm a big fan of Jelani Woods. I loved that pick when they made that. He's got a good offensive line. Not great, good. You know, it's been better in the past. The defense, it's got names all over the place. You know,
it does. Yeah.
I don't know. It's a weird team that has some veteran leaders, and it's got a rookie coach where you're kind of like, who is Shane Steichen? Is he going to end up being something? Is he not? Like, because, I mean, I think the common misconception is that these offensive coordinators who become head coaches, like, we always assume, oh, the offense is going to take off under Shane Steichen. But he doesn't have Jalen Hurts, right? He's got Anthony Richardson, who has a similar skill set, but Jalen Hurts is now a seasoned NFL pro. And Anthony Richardson had a 52% completion percentage in college. So it's a different ball game. I think the issue right now is Jonathan Taylor. What the hell's going on there?
That is a very good question.
Did you see the tweet his agent put out?
I did.
Like,
think
what?
that Irsay also needs to, like, I don't know anyone in the league right now outside of Kadarius Toney that needs like social media training more than Irsay. Like, this guy has like one glass of bourbon and then starts tweeting like it's no one's business. Like, the past like 4 months, he has sent out some tweets that are just out of control. We all knew the way that was going. Well, I do kind of think some of this is a little bit funny that we're in this social media era, and it's like, you know that an agent or someone is going to clap back at you. You knew that was going to happen when you sent that tweet out. So what were you even thinking? Is there some truth to some of the stuff that he said there? Maybe, but again, like, are we really doing this publicly, my guy?
I mean, I guess so. Right. I mean, we now live in a world where agents are going to clap back and be like, no, there's a problem here. Like, I mean, it's weird because on one hand, I'm like, you know, Saquon Barkley is the engine that runs the Giants. He reminds me of Todd Gurley on that 2017-18 Rams roster, right? Because he can pass protect. He can help you out of the backfield as a pass catcher, run actual routes. Like, I love when people are like, oh, he's such a great receiving back. No, he's not. He sits there in the screen, and he's good running after the catch. He can't run routes. That doesn't make, like, what? Like, you don't say, like, a guy's a good receiver because he takes bubble screens to the house. No, you say he's a good receiver when he's an Adam Thielen that has a crazy route package or, you know, release package off the line of scrimmage, can make guys miss and, you know, be a problem. Like, that, those are the guys. But with the, I don't know, it's weird with the Colts because, I mean, no knocking against Jonathan Taylor. The guy is a special talent. But that running game didn't look that bad with Deion Jackson last year, okay? He was moving the football.
They made it work.
So they go out and they get Evan Hull out of Northwestern. They have Zach Moss. I mean, I don't love Zach Moss. But Evan Hull is the one that I'm like,
I hate Zach Moss, though. I don't think he got a fair shot. I'm such a weirdo with some of these guys. I'm like, God, just give him a slight little, someone give him just a tiny chance, please. But no,
that's how I felt about Darrell Henderson. But I don't need the chat to go and destroy me because their Rams fans hate him, and I will back him to the end of the earth. But yeah.
Well, I'm backing Cam Akers this year, so if he makes me look stupid, I swear on Lord, he will be my least favorite person because I cannot believe how much I am drafting him. Please, he's so cheap.
I know. Let's talk about that real quick. All right, because I think people brought that up when we were talking about the Rams. Cam Akers last 6 games of the year, if you extrapolate that over a season, that is top 3 in the league in every statistic. Okay. Yeah. He was an absolute monster at the last 6 games of the year, but
he was insane.
To be fair, all 6 of those teams were bad against the run. So this is how sports works, Steph. is that you get these stats and then you have to compile your evidence behind it. And then you like nothing can ever be like simple, right? He didn't do it against the best. He of course did it against bad run defenses. So instead of taking the middle of that argument where it's like, I see both sides, there's people like, oh, he's going to be a god next year. Like he's going to go for 2,000. He'll break Eric Dickerson's. And then there's people that are like, he's trash. He only did against trash defensive lines. It's like, there has to be like some middle ground. So I guess the middle I'm settling with is a 1,200-yard season and maybe double-digit total touchdowns. I know they got Sony Michel, but Sony Michel is not that great. Like he's not bad, but he is a piece in a running back room. They have Kyron Williams, who I like way more than Sony Michel. Like I think he offers way more.
I'm shocked. Like Sony Michel in my head is like 45 years old at this point. Like
he's
feel
only
like
29.
This guy, he has had 7 lives or something. Like he is a pest. Like he in fantasy at least that is. I'm interested how you feel about Zach Evans too, because I find myself handcuffing Cam with him.
I'm going to tell you in a sec. I just wanted to finish your thought.
I think.
Yeah. Oh, that was your thought. Okay.
That's my thought. Well, my thought stopped when I started thinking about how much Cam Akers exposure I had, and I'm getting nervous.
I'm not nervous. Look at the end of that season. They just kept running the ball with Cam. And I think Cam's big issue is that he can't work in a committee backfield, which helps you in fantasy because the Rams now know that, right? I mean, he's the reason Darrell Henderson was cut. Like he basically told him like he needs to be the guy, he needs to stay in a rhythm, and it worked out. Like, you know, he put his thing out there and then they start him. They give him 20 carries and he proves them like, okay, he was right. Going into the season, they feel good about him. He gained more weight, hopefully ripping through those arm tackles and whatnot. The issue with Cam has always been 2 things: pass protection and just his vision. It can be really shoddy. So if he can improve on those things, the pass protection will keep him on the field. The vision will keep him running until he finds pay dirt. And so I guess my thing here is that when I look at Zach Evans, do you want tough or fluff here?
We can do tough is fine because I think that there's ways. I don't know. Yeah, you can give me tough. That's
all right.
Fine.
Here's the tough thing. Zach Evans is a 2-time starter in college and lost his job both times at TCU and Ole Miss.
I know.
And now for whatever reason, and I like the pick. I had a late second,
what
early
round
third on
did you
him.
draft him again?
6th. I like the pick, but I'm sorry, miss me with the idea that a guy who lost his job at TCU, transferred to Ole Miss, then lost that to Judkins, is going to unseat Cam Akers. A guy who has fumble
I don't think
issues.
he's unseating him unless Cam gets like some injury. I don't know that is the case at all for sure.
I don't think he unseats. I think he's the 4th running back. I think them getting Sony Michel told me all I need to know is that they don't see him as somebody that's going to contribute heavily this year. The guy that I would be willing to bet is the 2nd back is going to be Kyron Williams, because Williams can help you in the receiving game. He can help you in pass pro, and there's no dancing in the back. He just goes, right? Like when you find those guys that can just hit a hole, those are valuable. He won some big time games at Notre Dame because of him, played in big time games. He doesn't have the same fumbling issues, I would say, although he was a little concerning at times. I think the only reason Kyron fell the way he did is because he didn't run a blazing fast 40 time. We talked about this when he was coming out.
Right.
And I just think it's weird because the Rams draft John Kelly years ago, like 2007 or 18 or whatever, and people were like, oh, he's a stud. Like, he has a chance. The Rams draft Darrell Henderson, even for a second, people were like, oh, yeah, he's a stud. Cam Akers, he's a stud. Kyron Williams did not get that. Immediately when they got him, they're like, why we draft this guy? This guy's small. He's, he's slow. And it's like, hold on a sec. So my feeling, Steph, is that Cam is going to be a guy that gets 250 to 280 carries. So I think you're good. I think you're good. It's going to work out for you. Is he a top 10 running back this year? I think it's very possible. I think Kyren is going to be less fantasy relevant. I think it's going to be more about helping the team out. He's going to be the guy that does the dirty work on third down. And I think he would sign up for that in a heartbeat. And I think Rams fans would sign up for that if they see the production. I think all Sony Michel is there for is obviously veteran leadership. This is a young team. I don't mind getting veterans. And the fact that he knows the offense, short area yardage as well. And you don't have to commit to him, because if he, like, say you find these guys during the training camp or preseason period and you're like, I don't want to cut this guy, they'll cut Sony Michel. If they feel like, all right, like say Zach Evans takes a leap, they're cutting Sony Michel. Like, we don't need to keep 4 running backs, And so I think to me, that's the deal there, is that I think it really comes down to that. But we're talking a lot about Akers, but I would just say I'm going to be in that boat with you. I'm going to be getting a lot of Akers on Underdog Fantasy. But that's how I feel. I feel very good about
the Rams. Like, what do you think their record's going to be, is what I'm going to ask.
I think they win 10 games.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's all fun and games until you realize this team has Super Bowl winning quarterback, check. The most dominant player in the league, Aaron Donald, check. The most dominant receiver in the league, Cooper Kupp, check.
Yeah. And
then, like, if Akers, the last 6 games, if he's running at that rate, he's a pretty darn good player. The offensive line is a little bit of a question mark. But
that's what I was going to ask you about a little bit. But
you have those guys. You got Sean McVay, Super Bowl winning head coach. He's gone to 2 Super Bowls. He's been in the league for 6 years. And you have Raheem Morris, who is a defensive coordinator that you can rely on. And I'm going to get laughed at by this, but I think the Mike LaFleur hire is going to be massive for what they do moving forward. I think he just wasn't compatible. Didn't work with Elijah Moore, who, by the way, it's always geared towards him. Elijah Moore never gets any flack, but I think he was a locker room cancer with the Jets. I do. There was at one point, the Jets are 4-2 or 5-2. He's complaining about targets. I mean, we'll put him in that.
That was like what? It was like before week 7, huh? That was going on.
This is like the best the Jets have looked in years. This guy's complaining about targets. Like, your team's winning, bro. Who cares? It's the same thing. The Rams
wrong market, not the New York market, my dear.
The Rams were 7-0. I'll never forget the year they won the Super Bowl. Deshaun Jackson asked for his immediate release because he wasn't getting the targets. Like, I don't want guys like that on my team. So my point is that I don't think LaFleur should get the crap he gets and at the same time give Elijah Moore a pass. And Zach Wilson, you can't sit there and dog Zach Wilson, say he's trash, and say Mike LaFleur is to blame for it. Like, honestly, I think it was a bad pairing. Would Mike LaFleur have done fine with Aaron Rodgers? Yeah, I think anybody would do fine with Aaron Rodgers.
And we've seen that happen, though, across the league. Like, that, there's been more than one situation where that is the case. Who do you think comes out of the NFC West entirely? Do you think
like the Rams, the winner?
Yeah.
I think the 49ers do. I still think the 49ers, that defense is so good. No question marks there.
Can't beat it.
Offensive line, headlined by the best left tackle in all of football in Trent Williams. I mean, the only reason the 49ers even have a question mark is because they don't know how to fix their quarterback situation. Kyle Shanahan is this offensive guru who gets more credit than McVay in other instances. But this guy, for the life of him, does not know how to manage a quarterback room. He doesn't.
He doesn't know how to even... quite frankly, even speak to the press about anything either. I feel like, but also, what are they doing over there? The Sam Darnold thing is the most Shanahan thing that you will like, that, and totally embodies what he does when it comes to these situations. Like, what are we doing here?
I have no idea. I saw, and I'm not like the biggest fan of I forget his first name, but Cohen, the guy that covers the 49ers.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan, but like he does good work every now and then. And he put out a video that I quote tweeted. I thought was very fascinating. He was spot on. Like he's going off on a tangent. You see all these like 49er people that are at the training camp, like the staff, and they're like looking at him like, I can't believe you just said that. And he's just tearing him to shreds because I agree with him. What the hell? Like, so Brock Purdy got 9 throws, right? So he gets 9 reps in 11 on 11. And you're giving Trey Lance 5. You're giving Sam Darnold 5. And Brandon Allen? Excuse me? He's getting 5 reps? Like, what is happening? What are you doing? Like,
what are you proving? Like, what is that? That's not even... That's becoming a joke too to this, like, whatever quarterback mind game you're trying to be playing. Then it becomes a joke to everyone that's participating.
Yeah, that's what 49ers fans say. They're like, oh, well, he's trying to pull it. No. Maybe he just doesn't know as much as the other teams. There's a reason why, Steph, and you obviously know this. There is a reason why that teams don't like having 3-4 guys battling for a starting quarterback job. You could do that at other positions, but those reps are needed. Where is the last
time we've even seen that? Like, that's not even a thing that happens. No. Like, that shouldn't even be going on. Like,
you're not outsmarting anybody.
One thing. It's also totally overstated when people are like, oh, it's a quarterback battle, whatever. It's normally not. Like,
no.
We all know who is starting. And if they're not starting the season, it's usually just because it's a rookie and they're going to let whoever the vet is, the Steelers did it, you're going to see them do that. They did it with Daniel Jones and Eli Manning as well. Like, anytime that goes on, it's usually just because they're giving the vet it does not work. You might as well just either figure it out is what you need to do.
No, it doesn't work. One person in the chat just said, and I totally lost it. Oh, Mr. Scampers, not since Matt Flynn. Exactly. It's very
That's
rare.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because that, I mean, obviously going into that, they weren't going to be like, oh, yeah, Russell Wilson, 3rd round pick. We just spent all this money on Matt Flynn. We're going to ease Russell Wilson in the starting role. No, he earned that thing. Like, he was not supposed. So, yeah, I agree with that. And I think, you know, it goes to say that with anything, really, Steph. I mean, when a lot of people are doing this, there are innovators. Like, there are, you know, the Steve Jobses of the world who, you know, do things differently and they end up building a giant corp. But then you have people that do things differently and they just never do anything, right? And so I think there's a reason why every team in the league knows who their starting quarterback is going to be at this time in the season, because they need the starter reps. Because if your starter's not prepared, I got news for you. You're going up against week 1, a starter that is prepared. Puts you at a disadvantage.
Yeah, 100%. And then you're also not tricking. This is not a mind game that you're.
Yeah, you're not fooling anybody.
Like, no one, you're not fooling anyone at all. Is the thing. Like, it's not the game that you think it is. It's very interesting, but I think their defense they still have too much talent, and they're still the 49ers. So I don't foresee them. Even if it doesn't even matter. How many quarterbacks did they even have? And wasn't there, that was last year or 2 years ago when they literally didn't even have a quarterback to start? Was that this year? Last year or whatever.
The 49ers?
Yeah. Remember they had like no quarterbacks even. They had to throw out. Is that what came in?
Yeah. They got Josh Johnson.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, that guy is just trying to I mean, he's basically trying to play for every team at this point.
I think it's cool.
I'm all for it. Nate Robinson tried to do that in the NBA. It didn't work because you actually have to make the team. Yeah, so that didn't work. But I remember, you know, with the Broncos, for instance, like with the whole COVID thing, they had to start Kendall Hinton, their wide receiver.
That's right. That's what I was thinking about. I was trying to. Oh my God, what weird times COVID was with some of these players.
It was bizarre. But I don't know. The way I look at it, Steph, is that there's one person who thinks he knows more than everybody else. And it's why I do not believe that the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl this year. I believe they win the NFC West. I think they can win a playoff game. But the quarterbacks are everything in this league. And I don't even know in this day and age, I don't know if you can make it with just a guy and an elite defense anymore. Like Jared Goff losing to Tom Brady, that kind of broke the glass for me. I always kind of felt like anybody could do it. Like, I think we're past the era of, and I'm not saying Goff couldn't now, but then I think we're past the era of like Trent Dilfers winning the Super Bowl with an elite defense. I think we're way past that.
I mean, probably the first one. I mean, even like Eli Manning, it's been so hard for, when people try to say that you need, and I think a lot of the times, like some of these younger kids that are very into, like, they have favorite players, not favorite teams, the way that we were raised, and like we grew up on one team, and like that's the team we root for week in and week out. And as they root for players, and then they kind of have this team they like and that team they like, where now everyone wants, they want a Mahomes, they want a Lamar Jackson, they want these guys. But there's never going to be, and I was just talking about this at dinner, like you're never going to have 32 quarterbacks that can start and be Patrick Mahomes at what, that's never going to happen. It's just not possible. And, Eli Manning won too. And I think there's also obviously some Cinderella stories and there's things that happen, but the league is changing so significantly that I do think that you have to have that little bit of something else right now to be able. I do think that defense is still more important than people want to believe. I've always felt very strongly in that. You look at even like the Vikings last year, like their defense was so atrocious, they probably could have kept themselves going. At least they finished a lot of those games really in too tight of calls. But defense is so important for success in this league. Like, look at the Eagles last year. Their defense was literally ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I mean they went out and got Robert Quinn, and I don't even think we saw him on the field. I mean he barely played.
Yeah,
they were that deep.
Yeah, Howie Roseman, it's crazy. That's the thing, is depth is so important. That's why I'm worried about a team like Tampa Bay, where I don't think the depth chart is there. If they were to have a cluster injury on either side of the ball, like they're totally screwed. And then there goes whatever season they thought they were having, then you're in a spot where it's like you're almost better off finding your real quarterback. Because listen, I feel for Baker, and people can sit there and argue with me all they want. He's turned into a Band-Aid. He's no longer a option. That unfortunately that window has likely closed for him, and what are we going to do? We're going to wait for the Geno Smith story? Like, that's not going to happen to a lot of these guys. Geno Smith is a Cinderella story at this point. Like, that's not going to happen for a lot of these guys.
Watch, Steph. We already pissed off the Seahawks fans the last time we came on here.
Yeah, I know.
Because we were just like, why is everybody talking about them? I don't understand. Let's wrap it up with one quick thing. So fantasy football. Give me one player. I'll give you mine. You give me yours. One player that everybody should be adding in leagues. Just find a way to get him on your roster. Maybe not a superstar. Maybe it is, but just find a way.
Okay, so I'll go tight end. I'll give you like someone that is a superstar that is getting totally overlooked, and I will do a homer pick with that, and then I'll give you a nice one. But Darren Waller is getting drafted. It's ridiculous how low. Like, I just got him at tight end 8 in a league that I was just drafting. His upside is absurd. I don't want to hear about him getting hurt and whatever. If you're willing to take George Kittle, then you can take Darren Waller. Because in the last 4 years, Darren Waller has actually played one more game than George Kittle. So I don't want to hear it with that. Even the last 3, I think he's only played 2 less, maybe it is in total. And what people don't realize is we're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets across the league now. That is going to be something that we see way more often than we've seen the past couple years. But he's the wide receiver 1 there, period. Like, he has that upside. Yeah, he has to stay on the field. But he, again, like I said, Daniel Jones hasn't had a talent like that. Someone I also really like that you can get tight end 22 that I think has, I won't go as far as top 10 upside, but I think he's a very sneaky pick, is also Irv Smith Jr. He is someone that's getting totally overlooked, and he's in a really great spot. And we've seen guys like this follow very similar paths that I think is a little bit more talented than some of those guys that have gotten the opportunity there. So I do like Irv Smith. So I'll do 2 tight ends, but I could go on and on. You know, that's my bread and butter a little bit. Quentin Johnson, I like quite a bit. If we're gonna go rookie wise, there's tons of guys. We'll have to do a fantasy football show.
Yeah. You got your 2 tight ends out there. So chat, write those notes down. I got 2 receivers. Well, I'll say an honorable mention because we already talked about him, Isaiah Hodgins.
Love him.
But the 2 receivers I'm going to say, first off, I'm going to give a homer pick because you gave one. Van Jefferson, okay? Just find a way to get him. He is going to be so cheap. You will not have to spend a high pick on him at all. And I feel like everyone's forgetting he had 800 yards as the 3rd option in LA the Super Bowl season. And now he's the 2nd option potentially. So, I mean, maybe even the 4th option his Super Bowl season. So, yeah, he was injured. He started coming on a little bit strong at the end of last year. I think he's going to do something. And then the last guy I'll say, Calvin freaking Ridley over in Jacksonville. I think he is going to be... I think he's going to be unreal. Like, I think he's going to open up that offense.
I'll give you a 2-for-1 here. Go before this moves and bet him over 5.5 touchdowns at plus money right now. Run, because that line is going to move so fast.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of my favorite bets this season. I don't like his receiving yards as much, but that touchdown, I think that number is an absolute smash. And that's one of my favorite bets. Darren Waller, too, over 4.5. Give me a break. Like, I think that those 2 numbers are at plus money are egregiously low. I like both of them a lot.
They have so much speed in Jacksonville. Like, Trevor Lawrence is just going to be having a blast this year. Like, I mean, guys will be open. Like, you have Kirk, you have Ridley. I mean,
Ingram.
Ingram's locked up now. So you have him. I mean, the list goes on. Travis Etienne. I know everyone's talking about the other running back they got, Tank. So, hey, you know, we'll see. But that's all we got for you guys. Please do me a favor. I'm gonna post the link in the description now. At comment section. It's already in the description. Go do yourself a favor and subscribe to our lovely host, Stephie Smalls.
I appreciate you.
She's got an awesome YouTube channel. It is growing like crazy. Let's keep that growth going, right? Let's keep going, checking out her videos, checking out shorts. She's always putting fire out there. She'll be on here periodically throughout the season. I might appear over on there. But either way, Steph, keep killing it. I'm so proud of you. You've gone through a lot.
Thank you.
And you just continue to just laugh in the face of adversity. Like, you were just like, I'm just going to keep keeping on. It does not matter at this point. You know, sometimes you just got to put a smile on your face, and you do that. Proud of you. And that's going to do it, folks. Go and subscribe. And absolutely. You guys take care.